The Meta Quest 3 came out about 2 months ago. So how has it held up since then? Is the honeymoon period over? What about the claims that Meta made? You're watching Bringhurst VR. It has been about 2 months since the Quest 3 came out, and we had some high expectations. I think that half of that was us, and I think a bit of it is Meta Quest promising a certain thing. Where are we at 2 months later? And if you don't own one right now, should you get one? If you remember when the Quest 2 came out, and even the Quest 1 to the Quest 2, the Quest 2 leading up to the Quest 3, we had some upgrades that were pretty phenomenal, but they came a year or two later. So this isn't going to be entirely fair as to what the eventual outcome of this device is going to be. But right now, I mean, they really pushed this thing as an AR device. As I understand it, Stranger Things was supposed to come out as an AR game, largely, and they've kind of rolled that back according to Upload VR. It seems like, given the high expectations that we all have from everything that Apple has been pushing with the Vision Pro, I think they're kind of looking at the current device and not realizing, because they already knew, I don't know what they were thinking, but they knew that what they had right now was not capable of living up to what they had in their sights. And a lot of that comes from the fact that there is no, for instance, hand occlusion. When you're playing with AR, if there's something, an object in your room that's directly in front of you, well, if you put your hand over it, ideally that hand would occlude the object that you're seeing. But right now, despite this depth sensor that they have, it's always behind the object. If you have a floating screen in virtual desktop, your hand is behind that screen. And I'm starting with this because they started with it. It's what they pushed this whole time. So the Meta Quest 3 has a depth sensor. By all accounts, they should be capable of at least getting some kind of decent output to where it's manageable. I mean, Apple Vision is certainly going to be relying on this. The new Vario headset coming out for $10,000 is certainly going to be making use of this. Meta has the tech. It's there, but it's not implemented yet. So in terms of things that we can expect, whereas the 1 jumped to the 2 and the 2 jumped to the 3, I think that the 3 is going to expand down the line, and we're going to have that kind of occlusion. But if the quality of their hand tracking is anything to go on, I think it's going to be a bummer. I think that it's going to take a while to get that to a place where it's decent. I think the most we can hope for is something like in OBS, they have a background removal, and it's not nearly as good as the tools that are in TikTok even. For instance, this is the background removal tool on OBS. No depth sensor whatsoever. So I'm holding up my hands now, and you really can't see it. It's not a great experience. But with the introduction of a depth sensor, you'd think that a lot of this would be overcome. I mean, if they were able to overcome that, they have smart people working over there, and we don't have that. So presumably, even with the depth sensor, they're having trouble pulling that off, which means that when we do get it, when they do finally give us some kind of hand occlusion to accompany that AR experience, it's going to be kind of hit and miss at best. So we don't have that. And because of that, I don't feel like AR is worth a damn. I don't think it's worth anything right now. Everything they have out the door, I honestly think everything that they're looking forward to in the immediate future is just gimmicky nonsense. I made a whole video previously before the Quest 3 came out talking about, oh my God, the things that we could do with AR and watching the movie. And I'm sure I'm playing some clip of it right now. I'm sorry that I look like such a goof and my camera's so terrible. I've grown so much as a person. But the reality is we just don't have it. And I don't think we're going to get it with this headset. AR it's not here. They can improve on the algorithm that builds your play space when you first turn it on. It works fine, but I never use it because it's always too small or too big, or a leg of a chair is creeping in there. It's not perfect, and so I don't use it. And just like that, I don't use the AR experiences either, because there's nothing compelling in it. and really all the tech is designed for at the moment, because of the limitations of the headset, is kind of these wave shooters and zombies coming through the window, which is fine if you have someone over that wants to check out your headset and, oh, I heard so much about this AR, tell me more about it. But it's not sustainable. It's not a good experience, and Meta knows it too, which is why they're backpedaling on Stranger Things, and why, I mean, my kids, when I first introduced them to the Quest 3 headset, obviously the first thing I did was throw them into AR, and I showed them that thing with the rocket coming down from the ceiling. They couldn't have cared less. My kids just wanted to do that that introductory thing again, the firing the rockets and throwing airplanes, or playing with hand tracking instead of Waltz of the Wizard. You know, that's what they're into. There's just not a foundation for it, and so far it's a bummer. On top of that, they could do, like I said, anything they want to improve on the occlusion if they ever give it to us, and they can do things to give developers, we're always in a box. If you're not drawing your play space one way or another, when you're building a room for these AR experiences, they want you to draw 4 walls. And so for someone who really, I mean, how many of us live in a room that has just 4 walls, or plays in a room that just has 4 walls? Often we're downstairs in the living room and there's a hallway that leads to the kitchen, and it doesn't allow for that. So if you're trying to do some AR experience and you're in the living room, you have to draw a wall that goes over that breezeway or the hallway. And so when you have something climbing out of a wall, it just climbs out of nothing. And that's another limitation. So there's lots of things to overcome, but all of it is bottlenecked by the fact that the cameras are just garbage. They're just they're better than the Quest 2. They're better than the Quest Pro, but they are not designed for AR experiences. It's grainy, and anytime you see a video where someone is just having an amazing experience, and oh my gosh, look how clear this is, it's clearer than the Quest 2, and it's clearer than the Quest Pro. But when they get those experiences, which always look better in post, always look better when you're watching it on YouTube, and never when you're inside the headset, they get that by opening every window, probably opening the front door, turning on all the lights, and bringing in 4 or 5 professional lights to light it up. It's blinding. So it's not authentic. It's not real. It's not a good experience. AR right now is a joke. I'm sorry. And so we're back to VR. Sorry for that whole thing, but how does the headset perform as a VR device? Great. In terms of comparing it to the Pico 4 or the Quest 2 or the Valve Index, everything about it is better. It's a good headset. It's a good experience. While I can still see the screen door effect, if I really look for it, when I'm in PC VR or when I'm playing standalone Quest with the Quest Games Optimizer, I have no issues whatsoever. It is a crisp experience. It is better than the Quest 2. It is better than the Quest Pro, and I'm just happy with it. And now that the Quest 3 can take advantage of that AV1 codec, my experience inside a virtual desktop when playing wireless PC VR is also improved. I have less artifacts. It's cleaner. It's honestly a good experience, whereas before I always had to put up with some kind of a hiccup that was fine, whatever, but it took from the experience. And so far, that has been much improved for me. Now, we got to talk about the new chip. This has the XR2 Gen 2 chip, and it brings quite a lot to the table. It really improves performance, which is exemplified by the fact that Red Matter 2 and Assassin's Creed runs so well and looks so good. It's obviously an improvement over the Quest 2, and I've no complaints. I mean, sure, the Quest 4 will improve upon it again, but right now I'm happy with it. The battery life. Now, you guys may have noticed that when I was showing this thing off, I have got the BoboVR M2, which is not the M3. This was designed for the Quest 2, and I'm using this conversion kit from Tycho Tech to attach it. And so far, it's working great. I am going to point out, these Tycho Tech clips, they slide like a mother. They're just like, if I put on the headset, the headset will fall off. Like it wasn't always like that. It just began to loosen over time, and it became a problem. So what I did was a tiny, just little bit of hot glue, just enough to cause some grab, but it's a super jerry-rigged situation. The battery life, what do you think? On a scale from 1 to 10, how good do you think it is? 1? What are you talking about? 1? No, it's like a 2. You're such a jerk. I can play, like if I'm playing, okay, I spend most of my time in virtual desktop. Imagine I'm playing Wanderer and I've got settings on high and I'm playing on God mode inside of virtual desktop and brightness is 100%, volume is 100%. I get 45 minutes, maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. It's nothing though. Like if I'm playing something heavy duty, I don't know, it's whatever. But with the BoboVR M2, when I made a video about attaching this previously with a different set of clips, I had commented that the battery was not doing the trick. But I'm happy to report, after some real honest to God investigation and practice and playing with it, it's working. And I own 3 batteries. I have a charging dock that charges 2 at a time, which means I always have 1 battery on the back of the headset, 2 in the charger. And if my headset is charged to 100% just from the dock, and I begin a play session with that battery on the back, I will get about 40 minutes before that battery is dead, and I'm back to the stock Quest battery built-in deal, which means that 35, 40, 45 minutes times 3, I'm getting a decent amount of playtime. Let's do some math. Oh my God. Oh no, I can't do math. 40, 50, 60, 85. So with like 3 batteries and the built-in battery on the Quest itself, I'm getting 2.5, 3 hours of playtime, which is decent for not having to keep a battery in my pocket or anything like that. No wire hanging off. And so it's not ideal. I'm sure that with the Quest 2, that BoboVR was delivering something like an hour extra battery life, an hour and a half maybe. And that's not the case here. But it is charging, it is doing its job, and it is giving me an extended playtime, if only kind of a reduced rate that I would have hoped for. The lenses are to die for. I still like the lenses. Every time I put on the Quest 3, I'm happy with the lenses. And these are just easily the best lenses on any headset I've tried. 2 months in, it's still dual LCD panels, and yeah, they don't go perfect dark. But there was rarely an occasion where I lament that. Outside of some glow and kind of God rays around like the Meta logo when you boot it up, it's noticeable at that point. But when I'm deep in a game, when I'm immersed in that experience, I don't have an issue with it. I really think it's great. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm sure if I put on the Quest Pro tomorrow, I would notice that because of that local dimming, that there might have been some darker blacks, but just on a whole, I feel like it's a good experience, and I'm still appreciative of it. The stock strap that went around your head, it's so bad. It's so bad. Just avoid it. Get anything else, almost anything else. I got more to talk about, but don't get that strap because it's terrible and it hurts the back of your head. Just the worst experience I've ever had. And when I was a kid, I got my head stuck in a pickle jar. It's bad. For real. It digs into the back of my skull. I can't do it, which is why I'm so happy with the BoboVR headset. And honestly, the BoboVR M2, as far as I can tell, does the exact same thing as the M3. It's not even new batteries. And the hiccup here is that the B2 batteries that ship with the M2 are the same that ship with the M3, which means that whatever hiccup, whatever issue people have with battery and charging, and I agree, if you have a headset that's say 60% and you plug up that battery, it's not going to charge it to 100. It just won't. But if you begin with 100%, in my experience, it maintains 100% until that battery dies, which is useful to me. As long as you know what you're doing, it's useful. But they're selling this brand new M3 that it's the same. It just fits without an adapter, I guess. And they haven't resolved that. I don't know where the hype is coming from. If you guys have used that and for some reason, like just you got a nosebleed one day and you had a revelation that it was good somehow over the M2, let me know in the comments, because I need someone to like go beautiful mind on me here and like explain to me what's different about them, because so far it's nothing. At one point, I upgraded to the silicone facial interface built by Meta. I thought that it might be more comfortable because that was my experience with the Quest Pro. But upon throwing it on, it was terrible. I didn't like it. I agree that the stock facial interface that comes with it is a bit abrasive, but I'm saying this coming from the BoboVR perspective, where the pressure's on my forehead and it kind of, I mean, it's on my face, but it's alleviated quite a bit. And the issue I was having with the silicone interface is that it was actually sticking to my face. I'm clean. Again, I swear to God, I take showers, but it would just peel away from my face when I wanted to take it off. And it made such a seal that even the 5-10 minutes inside of a game, the lenses would begin to fog, and it was a problem. And I'm not getting that with this. I don't know, but provided you have some kind of a halo strap situation, I think that this is more comfortable. But to be fair, I came to that conclusion before I got the BoboVR. Whether you have the Elite strap or anything, I think it's going to be an issue for you. It was an issue for me, so that's my experience with that. Let's talk about the controllers. The controllers do not have cameras in them, and it doesn't have a ring over the top. Instead, they have got lights built into the outer rim of the controller. And in my experience, I haven't had any issues. I've had some issues in PC VR with it. It's going to sound weird, but anytime I accidentally tap the controllers together, I'll lose tracking for 10 seconds, and then it will promptly fix itself. But that can't be replicated in standalone. So I have no idea what that is. I don't know why it's happening. And there are days where it doesn't happen at all. I probably need to uninstall Steam, reinstall it, and see what happens. But I can't account for why that would be different in PC VR versus Quest standalone. And overall, especially standalone, I've had no issues. Even in dim lighting, it's worked great. And speaking of dim lighting, I think that we've all experienced this, and I guess a lot of people are watching who haven't because they don't have the Quest 3 yet, but it will tell you that it doesn't think there's sufficient light for gameplay. Even with the lights on overhead, it will say there might not be enough light, which is annoying. I don't like it. I wish it would stop. Please stop. Because I really don't have tracking issues when it says that. I don't know what the issue is or why they feel they need to say that every time. All it does is kind of render to us that the hardware they have is awful, I guess. I mean, if the lights are on and you can't see my controller, then what's wrong with you? That's a hiccup, but really the tracking has been fine. I've thought about, especially initially before the headset came out, I kind of knew in my head, okay, I'm going to get the Quest Pro controllers because I want that better tracking. But as I'm here and not having any issues with the tracking, I think back to the Quest Pro experience and how often those controllers would disconnect, need to update, and how it took like 30 seconds for them to power up when my headset was already on. It was kind of a bummer, and I'm sure maybe they've ironed it out by now. But I don't have any of those issues with these, so I'm sticking with it. The Quest 3 charging dock, I'm really happy with. I know that my experience with it has been really good, especially coming from the Quest Pro. I like how easy it is to plug it up. I like how responsive it is and how fast everything charges. I can put a dead headset, dead batteries on there, and it seems to be fully charged within an hour, I think. Something like that. I think it's overpriced. I think that it's a lot of money, but I think that what it does very well. And going back, because I meant to talk about the audio, instead I went on this whole thing about the head strap and how terrible it was. But the audio, I've always liked to wear headphones or attachable globular cluster solutions, which, come to think of it, I think I made that video for the Quest Pro about globular cluster, and everyone else piled on. I think I was the first, and I kind of wear that like a badge of honor. I'm pretty happy with it. I am looking forward to them releasing something for the Quest 3. When they do, I will get it. I promise. I'm looking forward to it. Where was I going with it? Oh yeah, the audio. I almost got sidetracked again. The audio, just standalone, piped out of the headset, is really good. It's good. I wouldn't use it for something like Beat Saber where the low end matters, but in terms of giving you presence and knowing what's coming from where when you're playing a game, it actually does the job a lot better than the Quest 2 did, a lot better than the Quest 1, and I find myself when I'm not playing at night, not trying to wake someone up, I'm playing with just no headphones. I'm looking forward to getting those globular clusters when they come out. But for now, I'm happy with it. And to that point, I had my dad over the other day. I threw him in Half-Life Alyx with the B-Haptics Tac Suit X40. And sure enough, he had a great time with it. But my dad, he started something called Strata Studio Pro back in the 90s, and it was used in a number of things, but it was kind of a pioneer situation for special effects. And then when VR began to take off with the DK1 and the Rift, Strata maneuvered, and they began building software for, VR implementation. And so he was the one who introduced me to VR back years ago with his Rift at the time. And just seeing him notice and say, wow, that sound is really good, was kind of a big deal. It occurred to me that it is pretty good. Like, it really does the trick in a way that he had this spatial awareness that maybe I was taking for granted at the time, but it's a good experience. Again, not great for music if you're like a bass head, okay, for instance, but it's good, and they deserve credit where credit is due. So what have we talked about? We talked about the controllers, we talked about the battery, the lenses, talked about the panels, talked about the chip. So let's get into the overall closing argument here. How's it been 2 months later? AR is dog shit, and I don't think they're going to improve upon it, because just whatever they do, improving upon hand occlusion, the cameras are just not capable of giving us a clear picture, a clear image that's desirable. They can make it better with that hand occlusion. I don't know. There's not a lot they can do as it stands right now. And with limitations that can't be overcome, I don't think this is the headset for AR. I think we're going to have to look forward to the Quest Pro 2 in 2025. And honestly, by then, we'll probably have something from Samsung, and we'll have seen these experiences from people who bought the Apple Vision Pro. There's going to be a lot to improve upon, and I'm only hoping that all this other stuff is so good that Meta can't keep doing this. I don't know why Meta keeps giving us terrible straps. I don't know why they refuse to give us headphones. I don't know why they shipped an AR device with, like, what is it, 4 megapixel cameras? I just don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know why they shipped it like this. I mean, call it a good VR headset. If that's all it had been, a good VR headset, they win. They did it, and it's moderately priced. I know you're pissed off that it's like $500, but like, relatively, someone did the math, breaking down all the parts that go into this headset, and they're only making, like, they're probably breaking even, if that. So it's reasonably priced, and it's a good headset for standalone because of that Gen 2 chip, and it's a good headset for PC VR because of that wireless capability. But it's terrible for AR, and I don't know why they keep talking about it. I need to be done with this. You guys have been watching Bringhurst VR. Thanks to everyone. I got myself all flustered now. Thank you to my membership subscribers and my patrons on Patreon. You guys are awesome. I can't do this without you. I really appreciate it. It gives me some peace of mind when I'm making these videos and giving away accessories. I've given away something like 7 or 8 accessories in the last month or two, and it's a bit expensive, so it's just nice to have that. And I love hearing from you guys, so hit me up in the comments, support me if you can, and if you can't, it's fine. I'll catch you guys on the next video.